Always smiling. Good to see you all the way from Zambia. I mean, good to know that Zambia is hot. Okay. And how is Zambian president and all the people over there? I hope they're fine. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. We're 25 in the room. You know how we normally do it. Maybe some of the people have forgotten. So please kindly share the link with 10 of your friends and bring them into the room. We're talking about giving back this month. Okay, so keep inviting you people. If all of us do one person will double. If we do 10, then we'll have a full house. Okay, so let's go ahead, invite our friends and families because the story we're going to be talking about today, or what we're going to be talking about, the initiative was one that I was at the center of it when it started, and I am super proud of what they've done. Okay, so I am going to be welcoming the founder and the executive director of Irede Foundation. She's my own baby sister, and I love her so much, right? So let's make welcome Crystal Chigbu. Crystal, how are you?
I'm very fine, PF. It's good to be here well, for me, it's afternoon.
Okay. Good to have you. I mean, you're always smiling as you like me. You look like me, so you're always smiling. Okay. The only thing is I've not dyed my hair like yours. Yeah, maybe if I dye my hair, it will be red. Okay. But I mean, I'm super excited to have you in the building. Okay, guys. So let's keep inviting our friends and family. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, Crystal. Everybody hears about Irede Foundation, Irede Foundation, because this month we are focused on giving back. We have been taking in house of saviors, yeah, but we also feel a sense of corporate responsibilities for our people to support initiatives and then for them to know what is happening in different worlds because you can stay in your house, especially against the backdrop of the challenges in Nigeria and some other parts of the world, you can become, and given the fact that people have given in times past and then it's been misused. I mean, I remember when I used to do change work in Ajegunle, people would collect grants to take care of children in Ajegunle, and then they will go on trips, they will buy cars, they will buy houses, and when the donors are asking for a report, they will organize a kangaroo meeting for the kids and share cabin biscuits with the children and mix it up together with water. And then they'll take pictures and send back. It used to be very, very upsetting for me. And I saw a bit of that, a lot of that. I mean, the good news is that many of those people, they are nothing to random about. I still see them, so we believe that, I mean, only us can take care of our own. We say, be your brother's keeper. So we want to start the story from the beginning. Irede Foundation, how did you come about the name? And what exactly is the story behind the Irede Foundation?
Irede actually means the goodness has come. And it actually started from my personal story of giving birth to my first child with a limb deformity. Um, and her leg had to be amputated. So it's for my daughter's name. And sorry, every time I have to share this part of my life, I think it keeps getting, it is emotional. So 16 years ago, when I gave birth to my daughter, she was born with a congenital limb deformity. And we were told when she was 6 days old that we had to amputate the leg. Of course, being your first child, you devastating, cried every day. And I mean, PF, you were very much a part of the story, and TPF. It was it was as if my world had ended. For perspective, I had worked in the corporate world for a long period of time before that time, and it almost felt like everything that I had done had been perfect, except that I was now going to give birth to my child, and at the point of birth, I'm realizing that she had a congenital limb deformity. Fast forward, we then had to go ahead with the amputation. when she was 2 years and 3 months old. After which, we did the amputation and then she got artificial limbs. And when she got the artificial limbs, it almost felt like there was a ray of hope. Things were different for us because before the amputation and the prosthetic limb, we would stay back at home. She only spent time with family and friends. We could also not move on with our lives. And so after doing that, I started meeting with people, and I realized that a lot more people were going through the same issue that I had, but it's just that they weren't talking about it. And I wanted to blog and help just share my story and see if it would encourage at least one person. And that's how we came about starting the Irede Foundation. And her Yoruba name is Ireoluwade. So the name was coined from her name, and basically wanting to share the hope and the goodness that we had experienced with other people by providing artificial limbs for families who cannot afford it, and help their children live a full life in spite of the amputation that they must have gone through. So that in a nutshell is how we came about the name and also the story behind it.
Thank you very much, Crystal. I mean, I remember, the birth of your daughter. I remember, how you back her. The first time I saw her, I have all these memories in my head because I mean, I used to be the one driving you around Lagos. So I mean, I know how devastating the decision to go on that amputation was for you. And so for perspective before we go into their work, I mean, what does it feel like? How does a parent come to accept such a decision? And what were the emotional response, of the reality of, I mean, you're a Christian, you're a person of faith. I'm sure you would have felt, can't we pray? We've heard about, creative miracles, legs growing out of, can't we pray? Where is God and all? What have I done? And things like that. I mean, can you take us through a bit of what was going through your mind, that period?
And Praise, I think you have kind of talked about some of the things, but I think one of the first things is a feeling of guilt, like almost as if I didn't do enough, or is there something I did not do that I was supposed to do? And you hit the nail on the head because, yes, I'm a person of faith. And what happens is usually when we are people of faith, you kind of believe that answers that you expect is that you prayed about something and it's exactly what it is that you want to receive. So I felt like God was unfair to me. I felt like God had abandoned me. I felt like God was visiting my sins of before on me by, giving me the child. And I would hear things, from God, like I will take care of her. I'm in this situation. I'm like, I don't understand. How can you be in this situation? And my daughter doesn't have a leg and it didn't form. And I'm like, I'm a Christian. So all of that kind of, put me in a place where maybe I didn't pray enough. And of course, people helped me to feel like I did not pray enough. People
Mm,
helped me to feel like, you know, by going ahead with the amputation, it was that I wasn't exercising faith. Maybe
mm,
something could have been done differently. I cried every day for 2 years. And people that are in my life know that because I can just be sitting down and I'm smiling and laughing, and all of a sudden I start crying because I just couldn't see hope in the situation that I had with my daughter. The second thing is, I think, a thing of devastation. You're almost every day devastated by and really feeling like, you can't make change happen. I don't know about other people, but one of the things that I enjoy with being a parent is the fact that, my child can ask me for something and I can get it done, and just do it. And so the fact that I couldn't provide my child with a leg in this instance just made me kind of devastated. There was no love that was showered on me at that time that made sense, because for me, you really don't understand what I'm going through and the situation that I found myself in. So all of that mixed with a feeling of, I wasn't sure. And, in a place like Africa, where disability is not accepted. It is almost like a taboo. And so everybody talked about the fact that, oh, maybe it's the fact that I'm from a different tribe from my husband, or maybe because they said we shouldn't get married to ourselves, that's what went wrong. And there were times when I sat by myself and I said, just maybe that was the problem. And in all of that, I would say my faith came to bear, because every time I sat down by myself reflecting, I just knew that it was going to be okay. How it was going to be okay, I wasn't sure, but I just knew that it was going to be okay. And today I can sit back and I can say, yes, indeed, it is well and it's okay. But then I didn't see it at all. And really, that was what my experience was. And I think that usually, as I relate with more parents, it's usually that feeling of guilt, is that
Mm.
feeling of shame, is that feeling of, is there something I could have done differently to have changed the situation?
Thank you very much. I think it's human for us to think that when things happen is because of what someone has done. But I mean, I'm reminded of the guy that was born blind, and they asked Jesus, who sinned? And I wonder why human beings always think, because I know people who sin every day, fornicate every day, and stuff, and they are ruling nations. They are doing well, right? And so sometimes there are things we can explain, and I always say to human beings, please accept the limitation of your humanity, that there are things you will never be able to explain. But then once reality strikes, how do we deal with it? Right? It's the next thing we need to do. And so I will go to the child. I mean, she was amputated, her leg was amputated at 2. How did she feel when she started talking? What questions did she ask? Or she didn't ask any question?
Well, of course, she asked questions. I think the first question that I remember is the fact that she asked me, why is everybody in my class walking on both legs and I am crawling?
Mm.
Then we had not even done the amputation. And of course, that made me even cry, because it almost felt like I didn't have an answer for her, and she couldn't, I couldn't just really explain it to her. So that I remember that question very well. Second question was questions of, are you sure I'm going to be able to do everything that everybody else can do? And, because she would go and want to try and swim, and she'll be told it's because she has one leg that she's unable to swim. So she would come back and ask, is there something wrong with me? And of course, nothing is wrong with you. Until the point where I came to, sharing with her and saying, yes, you do have one leg, but it's possible for you to do it. It might not be at the pace that other people can do it, but yes, you can get this done. Then, and I mean, PF, you know her very well. She's going on 16 now, and she still has so many questions. I think as we get to different phases, different questions come up. Questions as she's now a teenager on how, it impacts the way she looks, the way she's loved, the way she, she expresses herself and all of that. So the questions keep rolling in and keep coming. And it's the fact also asking, am I perfect the way I am? Are people just tolerating me just because, my parents are out there and talking about this? Do they really love me for who I am? And all those questions keep really coming in from time to time. Some I have answers to, some I do not have answers to. And, that's how the journey has been so far.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, I talk to her now that she's a teenager, and I can tell for free, her intelligence is way ahead of her age. I mean, she was with me a few months ago, and we had good time, good idea and daughter time, and we had spoke about stuff that we will not tell you. Anyway, so now let's go to, at what point did you decide to flip this and turn it into an initiative that can begin to give prostheses to people. And maybe you let us in into the world of people who actually need limbs. What exactly, because it's something that we hardly don't talk about. What exactly is going on in that world?
Um, I think it was when she was going to turn 3 that I actually came up with, starting something. And just to be clear and put it out there, when I was starting whatever I was starting, it wasn't about her. It was because I think I needed to heal, I needed to share, and I just wanted to go through the things that I was going through. When she was 2 years and 3 months old, we went ahead with the amputation. But trust me, the guilt was still there. The shame was there. We then, did the artificial limb for her. And sometimes we will cover it. Sometimes we will not cover it because you almost feel like, I don't want people to know about it. I don't want people to label me based on the fact that my daughter uses an artificial limb. But every day I was encouraged in the fact that, I mean, she started swimming, she started dancing ballet and all of that. And I started seeing possibilities until I decided I wanted to start writing to support other parents. And I started writing, I started a blog and I started writing. And then hospitals will reach out to me and say, we have someone that has exactly the same situation as your daughter. Can you please help us talk to that parent so that they can take the needed decision about their child? And so I started doing that offline. It wasn't because I wanted to start an NGO. And then I met a child that was a double amputee. And I wanted to be able to support that child to stand like my daughter, walk like my daughter. And so I started talking to my friends and said, can we please come together to give this girl legs? And so when I shared with my friends, they were fine with it because they had seen the progress with my daughter. And so we wanted to extend the same grace. We were able to get her name is Kelechi. We were able to get her both limbs and she started working. And then somebody came to me and said, are you sure we don't have more people that we can support with this? I said, absolutely, we can continue to do this. And the person said, I'm sure there are much more beyond what you know. And I'm like, I don't know exactly what to do with these people. And then I decided to pray about it. Of course, at the back of my mind, I wasn't still thinking an NGO until, I had a clear blueprint of what the organization should do. And I realized that it was exactly sharing the comfort with which I had been comforted with other people. And so if you ask me, what were the things that happened with my daughter? The first thing was I had no knowledge at all about disabilities or even amputation or whatever it was. The only thing that I knew that people that had one leg or one hand begged on the streets. That was the information that I had. So it was first to educate people, help them to realize that having a disability is not the end of life. It's not, it does not stop you from living a full life. The second thing was, realizing that a lot of people were not talking about it. So starting a support group to support other parents so that they can first get their lives together and then be able to be strong for their children. And then the third thing was prosthetic limbs are crazy expensive. How do we support people that cannot afford it to get those artificial limbs for their children so that their children can live a full life? They can go back to school and then they won't be on the streets begging. So that, has been my own motivation. What helps every time I look at my daughter, I see somebody that is a great person. I'm like, everyone that has this kind of disability can actually live a full life. So that's what led into starting Irede Foundation and what we do at the Irede Foundation. In the minds of people with disabilities, engaging with them, the first thing that I see is usually it's all players, especially because of where we are and where we find ourselves in Africa. So the only thing that they can see is this disability. And that's where I coined out the word that disability is first a thing of the mind. And so you realize that for persons with disabilities that have gotten to the point where they can now see beyond their disabilities, they are able to live life. So usually they are in that bubble just really feeling like I am unable to because of my disability. The second thing is that people within that space want to be treated like human beings. They don't want you to treat them like their disability. But unfortunately, what most of us do is out of, I would say, empathy, out of sympathy, what we basically do is pity them. They don't want to be pitied. They just want you to help them to live their life. And finally, and there's so many things. Finally, for people that find themselves within that space is, am I going to be accepted in spite of my disability? They want acceptance. They want you to accept them the way they are. Just the same way PF is accepting me with my red hair. There's nothing he can do about it. He just loves me all the same with the way the color of my hair is. That's the same way they just want to be accepted. And the question to us this afternoon is really, are we accepting of persons with disabilities, even with their disability?
Wow. You have touched on a lot of things that bother me because it looks like you rightly said, our memories of past memories of disability has got to be, once you have any disability, you're going to end up as a beggar. Basically, that's the, because I mean, and to think that there was one prosthetic guy with a prosthesis who actually ran South Africa, I mean, over here, it's not a big deal. People with Down syndrome are work, but we make jokes about disability in Nigeria. Our comedians are so crappy when it comes to that. I mean, they talk about their legs, they talk about, special needs kids, they call them imbecile. It's just a madhouse in Africa. The question is, what can we, I mean, even maybe starting from, because I'll come to what does it cost to take care of people with disability, advocacy. What is the advocacy world like for people with disabilities in Africa? What is even the population? What does it do? You have data on the population of people with disability? Let's even narrow down people who need limbs in Africa. What does it look like? Because if we don't know the magnitude of the problem, we won't even know. I mean, you are not likely going to intentionally see what you're not looking for. And so it may have, I mean, many people just think that maybe just have like 5,000 people, we can warehouse that. And so that's why government is not talking about it, but what exactly is the state of things?
So if you basically look at disability, I mean, statistics is about 15% of the population globally. And when you look at it and you cascade down, it's actually the same when you come to Africa and when you come to Nigeria. If you drill down a little bit more, and I will talk about different disabilities. And I think that just because a disability is not physical does not mean that somebody doesn't have a disability. Some have mental disabilities, some have psychosocial, some have intellectual disability, and it's really there. But if you drill down even further, especially when it comes to amputation and use of prosthetic limbs, it goes beyond just limbs. I mean, we have people that have disabilities as a result of cancer. Maybe they have to, amputate one breast, or there are the two breasts as a result of cancer or as a result of a health challenge, especially in the increase now is diabetes, which is responsible for about 34% of the amputation that we have globally. I mean, just yesterday I was in a conversation, and it's disturbing to see that even 15-year-olds now are diabetic, and it's really bad because when it is not properly managed, what happens is it leads to amputation. And so it's really big. And there are laws to support this. It's just that where we have the gap is in the implementation of the laws that are in place. Across Nigeria, in Africa, there are laws. The problem is that we don't have an execution or implementation of these laws. Having said that, I would say that we're beginning to talk about it. The advocacy and awareness has started. It needs to be sped up such that more people get to know about it. I mean, 12, 13 years ago, when I started talking about disability, it was something that people did not want to accept. People will say, God forbid. People will say, speak Christianese just to cover up the disability that their children have or that, is happening in their family. In fact, I remember about 12 years ago, I had to talk to somebody about amputation because of diabetes, and they wouldn't go for it. Today, when you're talking to more people, they are more aware, they are more accepting of the situation. And it's just that the gap that they probably have is that, they don't know the future that awaits them. So yes, we are beginning to drive that conversation, but we can do a lot more. The advocacy has begun. If I want to give it, between 1 to 10 and rate it, I would say we're at like 2%. And so we need to continue to talk about it. It's one of the things that I think this forum, House of Saviors, has given us today, because yes, beyond giving back, we are talking about it. More people are becoming aware. And I just think that if we can only up it a little bit more, then that awareness will go a long way and the advocacy will be out there.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Now, so in that space, what are the basic needs? Because I know one is the prosthesis, but there may be more needs in that space, much more than prosthesis. I mean, I know that we usually do the radio walk annually, which I mean, now I miss it because I mean, I always love to be a part of that, which created a lot of awareness and stuff. But what do they, I mean, in the value chain of disability or people living with disability, and you have touched on, I mean, I never talked about diabetes, how big that is, but it's a big issue even in America, because I know that if you don't have health insurance or insurance to take care of you or whatever, you're almost in trouble, and I see how I see young people, and I'm wondering what is this person eating that is causing diabetes at this age and stuff like that, and I'm wondering how did this happen, but what are in the value chain, what are the opportunities, what are the needs? That do some of them need psychosocial support? Do they need teaching? Do they need typically saying I can lead out on the limb Dallas in Dallas.
Absolutely. I was going to say that. She took it out of my mouth.
Please come and lead it, my wife. Anyway, so what are the needs in the value chain before we now go into what does it take to what's the process of getting the prosthesis and what does it cost really?
Okay, so the first thing, and you again, PF, you have led the conversation because it is first the mind. The mind. We need to first help persons with disability to build that mindset, the growth mindset that helps them to know that in spite of the disability that you have, you can live a full life. So like you rightly said, we have Oscar Pistorius, which is a runner, but beyond Oscar Pistorius, there are a lot more. There are models, there are people that are, you'll be shocked at the number of people that are amputees and they're leading a good life. Even in Nigeria, the current SSA to the governor of Lagos State, and she's now the GM actually of Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs, is an amputee. And you see these people leading excellent lives. So this mindset needs to be grown. People need to know persons with disabilities. And maybe I delve a little bit out of just amputees. I'm just saying people with disabilities in general need to know that their mind is the greatest asset that they have. And so if they can only make it happen first in their mind, then it's possible. The second thing will be the psychosocial support that is available, not just for the people with disabilities themselves now, but also for their caregivers. A lot of times, especially with children, one of the things that I say is the fact that the child is only as strong as the parent. If the parent does not have the right knowledge, the right information for that child, then they will consistently take decisions that will affect the child in a negative way. So pretty much, if you see a child with disabilities that is in school, it has to do with the caregiver. If you see the one that is out of school, it's still with the caregiver. So the psychosocial support for the caregivers, very, very important. Then I would say assistive devices for the person with disability, whether it's prosthetic limbs or hearing aid, whatever kind of assistive device, or a screen reader for someone that is visually impaired. It is that assistive device that will help that person to be able to lead a normal life like the rest of us, because they are normal. And then finally, I want to talk about what you talked about earlier, which is the awareness creation. We that are the community, we need to realize that these guys do not need our pity. And that's one thing I want us to take out of here. Yes, empathize with me, but don't pity me. Remove the barriers as much as possible. If you have somebody that is working with you that is on wheelchair, just imagine in your head that you don't have staircases, or you create a ramp that it can easily go up the ramp, then they don't need your support and your help. You have already supported them by removing that barrier. You will see them thrive, being able to lead a good life, live the normal life that they, want to live. So that's basically, I would say, the kind of support that you need as a person with disabilities and the community. Then you were asking about, the process of getting a prosthetic limb. That is interesting. And the first thing is, you do something that is called a cast, a negative cast on the limb. The interesting thing right now is we have 3D printers that can actually help you. Before now, we used to mold with POP. We will use the POP around the stump, and then we get a cast for the person. But now we have 3D scanners that we just scan, and not messy at all, and then we get a stump. And afterwards, it is built and customized for the person to be able to use. Some people leave the negative cast, like my daughter. You will see the metal, and it's really, in quote, sexy and really amazing. Some other people prefer to still cover it like skin, so it's exactly like their other skin, if it's one leg that is affected or one hand, or just create a skin cover for it. I know you still ask more questions on the prosthetic limb, so
Yes. So the prosthesis, this is it something that is produced in Nigeria, or they have to import? And what does, I mean, to give a limb to a child, what's the average cost like?
okay, average cost of a limb, and because that's the question, that is about $2,000 for a limb, and you keep changing it till the child is 18 to 21 years, because the growth rate ends at age 18. That's the cost of a
Sorry,
prosthetic.
hold on. So what are you saying that, so if a child is 5, $2,000 is spent. If the
Yes.
child now grows taller, another $2,000 is spent to replace. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I will tell you about some of the work that we've done in Irede to reduce the ongoing cost from $2,000 to maybe about $1,500. And then your second question is, do we produce in Nigeria? Today, we don't produce the limbs in Nigeria, but we customize the limbs in Nigeria. So the components that are used for the production of the limb are imported, and then we now assemble the components together for the child as need be. Because we have also learned about circulatory economy, what happens is when we are changing a prosthetic limb for a child that has been with Irede before, we take the old limb and look for parts of the components that can be reusable, either still for that child or for another child. Because when you look at a prosthetic limb, depending on the type of amputation, you will have a knee joint. So imagine your own limb. It's either a knee joint or an elbow joint. You will have a foot, you have the palm, you will have what is called a pylon that creates the length for you. So pretty much all of those components are put together. Some of the things are reusable for another child, maybe because this person has grown taller and the pylon is now short. So imagine, just like you said, a child that is 5, and when the child becomes 8, you need a longer pylon. However, and we will probably have another 5-year-old that will be needing it. So we take out the pylon when this other child, gets another one, and use it for another child. So pretty much that's how we circulate and recycle some of the components that have been used before. And we also have people that donates their old prosthesis to us. Maybe somebody gets a new insurance in America, and then they are getting a new prosthetic limb. They send their old prosthetic limb to us. We dismantle it, get the components that are reusable, like the knee joint, like the pylon, like probably a foot, if the person is using what is called a carbon foot, and then we reuse it for another child. So that's what we basically do.
I mean, this is almost like a production factory. I mean, someone would have thought that, oh, what you just do is you bring the thing and you weigh it, like a shoe. But it's looking like this process is a bit more complicated. I mean, so if the cost is $1,500, how many can one do? So if I ask, like, how many prostheses have you given so far? And do you give them for free to the parents, or they pay something, or what's the process?
So far, in the last 12 years, we've given about 569 prostheses to
What?
children, yes, across Nigeria. And it is free of charge. Again, if you remember when I started, our support of giving prosthetic limb is majorly to children who cannot afford it. When we take on a child also, we are responsible for changing consistently that prosthetic limb till the child is 18 years. Because by
Wow.
18, we believe that the growth rate would have stopped. And even if there's a surge, it's going to be when the child is 21. So we keep changing that prosthetic limb for the child. The change rate is between 9 months to 18 months. So it's possible that, the child will be needing another prosthetic limb from the time we give it, say 9 to 18 months. And so we just keep changing that prosthetic limb. So that's what we do today at the Irede Foundation.
Wow. So how do you, I mean, if you're getting 500 and I'm calculating, it's looking like you're, how do you fund this project? How do you fund this initiative?
Majorly, the way we fund is from well-meaning, individuals. And, a lot of times when I tell people that our biggest funds, come from individuals, they're like, no, maybe a company just gives you people one huge money. And I'm like, no, we have people that give us on a consistent basis, 5,000 naira, $5, $10, and they are consistent. The consistent fund that we get, we put it together. So some people call it crowdfunding. We put the funds together and then we use that to provide the limbs for the children. We also have those that are committed to children on a consistent basis. Say, I'm going to give this child a limb in 1 year. Of course, we also have companies, we have corporate organizations, we have grant-making organizations that give us fund to be able to drive advocacy forward for these children. But about 70% of our funds come from individuals, and it's from crowdfunding, from as low as, like there's a project that we called Power of Three, where you see that, I'm going to be giving 5,000 naira, and the person says, oh, okay, I'm also going to tell 3 of my friends to do the same. And this money is coming consistently. We put them together and then we use them to support the children that need the limbs.
Wow. Okay. So that, I mean, I'm glad that you have said that, because it means everyone on this call can do something consistently. Because I mean, if you say $1,500, not everyone may be able to do that. But you can start from somewhere and do the power of three thing. But okay, so let me um say, what role have you approached the government on, maybe they can put a budget together to manage this entire process for people who can help themselves? Or, I mean, what has been the interaction or response from government?
Okay,
Like,
so the main work that we do with government is advocacy, and in driving, there's a project that we've been driving in the last 3 years with governments on inclusive education. And the reason our focus was on inclusive education is because we realized that, we give the children the artificial limbs and then the schools reject them. So we started, pushing for the government to ensure that the schools accept the children when they go to the school. That's the first thing. But also that there is funding available in the inclusive schools for the children. The exciting thing is in the last 2 years, we see it, especially in Lagos State, with the Ministry of Budget and Planning to ensure that there is fund available.
Hello. Hello. Okay. Looks like Crystal is a bit frozen.
For
Network
children. So we are still also in partnership still with the government. We're now making health insurance available. It's gradual, it's gaining traction, and it's getting better. So that's what with government.
Okay, Crystal, can you hear me? You were a bit frozen at some point. We didn't hear part of what you said.
OMG.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me now?
So, yeah, I
Is
can
it?
hear you. I can hear you now. Okay, so I heard you say you give a
I
partner
was
with
saying
government
that,
to give health insurance or something like that.
yes, I was saying
You're
inclusive,
fro
and they have the right budget in
Mhm.
place for children with disabilities, such that there is vision in the budget for these children to be able to go to school. And
Mhm.
by providing the needed atmosphere or environment for the children to thrive in schools. So that's what our focus has been in the last 3 years with the
Okay,
government.
thank you. Now, what's the future like for Erede Foundation? Are you planning? I mean, like Lena is in Zambia. Are you planning to give prostheses to children in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Africa, other African countries, or what's the plan?
And so a couple of plans, but I will share two major ones that I think is really critical. The first one is we're expanding actually to the rest of Africa. We've
Mm.
done some work in Nigeria in the last 12 years. And while we've been giving limbs to children in Nigeria, we have other African countries that reach out from time to time for support. And so we just did an expansion of our operations to the US. And so we believe that that will help us to reach the rest of Africa effective 2025. So we are going to be actively going to the rest of Africa. The second thing that is critical for us is we've started a huge research work. Some of the work that we've done will be published also in 2025 regarding some of our learnings and the things that we've seen that has led to amputation and the role of parental support in ensuring that children with disabilities thrive. So these are the two biggest things that we're working on I would say, in the next 3 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Crystal. Yeah, do you have any question for Crystal? If you do, you can raise up your hand and I'll call you, or you can put your question in the chat box. But if there are people who want to donate or they want to be part of what the Radio Foundation is doing, is there any site or anywhere they can sign up? Is this something you can put on the chat box, or is this something you can read out to us that we can type? How can people be part of what you're doing?
Thank you so much, PF, for that. Our website, I'm going to drop the link, but also I know that there's a thriving network of the saviors. So I will also share how you can actually support us. But you can support us in 3 ways. The first one is to refer a child. I know that the first thing everybody talks about is say, oh, we need money. Yes, we do need money, and I will talk about that. But the first thing is the referral of a child that needs a limb. If you can just refer the child to us, we will be able to give our three-plunge approach, which first is to provide artificial limb for the child, which secondly is to give psychosocial support, and thirdly, the peer-to-peer support that helps that child to thrive. The second thing that you can do is you can volunteer your time. We need a huge base of volunteers, people that can give us their time. If you're a lawyer, if you're an architect, if you are an accountant, and I said architect, yes, because we're also working with a lot of corporate organizations to ensure accessibility for their buildings. And then the third one is you can support us with your finance. And like I said, as little as 5,000 naira, $5, £5, you can actually consistently give us this to help us to support these children. Our website is www.veirede and when you go to our website, you can see how to give. But I also send different links on how to be a part of the three things that I've actually shared.
Okay, www.irede. Okay, I think we have that. So you can go on that website and, guys, you can go on the website and, sign up. You can do the power of three. Incidentally, tomorrow is Crystal's birthday. And yeah, so I think it will be a worthy birthday gift for those who can do the power of three, because we have to hold that down because I know she's about to head out for a birthday, hang out somewhere. Right. But Crystal, it's been, your life inspire us, but you also do because there is a part of children with disability or families who have children living with disability that we don't talk about. And that is, we don't see it as a form of grief. To know that, when we think about grief, what we think about is, okay, someone died. Once there's no death, we don't think there is grief. And even when people die, we go there and say, the Lord give it, the Lord take it. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And when someone is crying, say, don't cry. When someone is cursing God during grief, say, don't curse God, so that you don't become like Job. We begin to sermonize. I know that you have added a bit of grief therapy to your work. You want to talk a bit about that, and because people don't see grief as, they don't see a child getting amputated as a form of grief for the parents. Maybe in a nutshell, you just want to touch in on that a bit.
Thank you so much, PF. And really, so I'm also a grief recovery specialist. And what led me into grief recovery is actually the fact that I realized that, the process which PF asked me about, there's a long process to, how I healed and got to the place where, I could actually live life fully. And grief recovery goes beyond just the death of somebody, it's the loss of anything at all. So for me, giving birth to my daughter with a congenital limb deformity was a loss, a huge loss. PF, you were there. I was a wreck that period. And so as a result of that, I decided to really understand beyond just, like he said, God take it, God give it, to the fact that there is a scientific way to actually help somebody heal through the process of whatever loss is it that you have gone through. So it could be the loss of finance, it could be the loss of a child, it could be the loss of your marriage, whatever loss at all. And it's actually possible to live a full life and be able to go through life in spite of the loss that you've been through. And so when you see Crystal and say, how have you gone through this? There also is a process that I had gone through and I, help other people go through to be whole again. And so this is the service that I provide. First in support of the parents, with disabilities that I work to, but also extended to other people that are going through loss and to help them actually heal. And yes, this is something that I do. This is actually my everyday life, to helping people recover from whatever grief that they've gone through before.
Thank you very much, Crystal, for shedding light on that part. If you have to have a final word for saviors in the building, what would be your okay? I think we have a question. My question is, do you have any other children, and how do they relate with your sister? What kind of conversations have you had with them over time?
I have agents of Telemuye. Okay, it's only praise that we understand. It's only praise that we understand that. So yes, I have a son. I think it's one of the biggest supports that my daughter has. They relate like there is no disability at all. They relate very freely, close friends. But if you ask me, it took a bit, for me to even have another child. But the two of them are very close. Then I have other adopted children that also have lived life with my daughter. I don't even think anybody, including her friends, see her that she has a disability. And it's because consistently, she's gone through a process where, and they also, of accepting that this person has a disability, but she's normal like every one of us, and she can live life to the fullest.
Okay, thank you very much, Lena, for that question. My own final question will be, what will be your word? So let's assume that you're in the United Nations and CNN is broadcasting this and you want to address the entire world. What will you be saying to us?
The first thing that I want to let you know is that disability is a thing of the mind. And once you can conquer it in your heart, you can be all that you need to be. The second thing that I'll be admonishing us to do in this room is that we should remove the barrier for every person with disability that we know. People with disability do not want to be pitied. They only wanted to be supported. And that support is that you do not leave them behind by taking away the barrier. And if I have in this room any parent of a child with disability, I want you to know that your child can only be as strong as you are. And so you need to get knowledge about the disability. You need to get help in terms of being, in the right frame of mind to support your child and know that your child is going to live a full life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Crystal, for granting us this audience. And thank you, thank you. Happy birthday. In my House of Saviors, can we go to the chat box and wish her a happy birthday? And please, let's get on the website and let's see how we can be a part of this work. Sometimes encouragement, sometimes referrals, other times let's give money. Let's give limbs to children who I always tell people that if that we are praying that miracles should happen, is one part of it, but then God has given wisdom to make miracles happen through medical intervention and medical innovation. So we can also explore that. And so, please, this is a laudable project that I think you can be a part. And maybe your next birthday, you can decide to devote your budget for Owambe to Irede Foundation. Instead of gathering people who have food in their houses and everybody dance and go away, you can say, my next birthday, okay, I ought to spend maybe $1 million. I will give a limb to a child, or I will give half a limb or something. These are worthy causes that we need to support, right? Yeah. So thank you very much, Crystal, for granting us the opportunity to get into your world today. God bless you so much. On this note, I'm going to sign off and we're going to give it back to Lena to continue the discussion, the meeting for today. But happy birthday, Crystal. We love you.